Hey, what's up guys? My name's Marta and this is 5 things I dislike about my lifted Forester. Okay, so we'll start with number 1. So one of the things I dislike about my lifted Forester is, I've got to say, the low range just isn't adequate enough for what I need to do with it. Especially where I live up here at the foothills of the high country, there's some seriously gnarly stuff that I wouldn't even dream about touching with the low range I've got at the moment. When I am tackling a very steep descent, I have to use a very fine balance between braking and my very first low range gear to try and get down there safely. But even then, it feels extremely uncomfortable and the car really just wants to take off. So that low range just is no good for what I needed to do. And saying that, I'm very thankful that it does have a low range at all. And in the future, hopefully that low range will be drastically improved. Number 2 on things I don't like about my lifted Forester. Well, for this one, I'm going to take you to my garage at home and I'll show you there. Okay, as owners of lifted Subarus, we've all been there. Broken CV boots and broken drive axles. Now, I've busted a number of these over the years and I've learnt the hard way. I've used a lot of cheap, non-genuine parts and they break pretty quick. So, number 1 tip here is, if you're lifting your Subaru, use genuine parts because they're going to last the longest. But a interesting trend that I've noticed is that with my 2.5-inch front lift, I'm actually breaking quite a lot of CVs, whereas the 3-inch rear, I haven't had a single problem since I installed it. So I know that the 2.5 3-inch combination is pretty much the maximum my Forester can handle without doing a body lift. So I know these CVs are under quite a lot of stress. On top of that, I'm not running sway bars and the front wheels are steering, so I think that's why I'm blowing so many front CV boots. So I think something I'm going to do in future to combat that is drop the front back down to a 2-inch, but that's something to come in the future. But anyway, my number 2 hate about my lifted Forester is replacing CVs. Number 3. So number 3 leads on a little bit from number 1 with the disappointment I have in the low range gearing. So this is that even though with all the modifications I've got to the Subaru, it's never going to be a proper four-wheel drive. So even though it's got the muddies, the low range and all that, at the end of the day I'm not going to be able to get the flex, I'm not going to be able to get the lockers, the safe reduction in low range gearing, and not to mention ground clearance to tackle some of those really nasty trails that Australia's got to offer. And saying that, I still absolutely love my Forester and taking it out bush, and it still really impresses me what it can do. But as much as it pains me to say, it's never going to be a true four-wheel drive. Number 4. Alright, so in my last video where I talked about things that I like about the car, I talked about how great it is that parts are so cheap and plentiful. Now, in this dislike that I have, it's that the aftermarket scene for lifted Subarus isn't that large yet. So at the moment, there's a few manufacturers who are doing lift kits. And besides that, there is not much of a market. Obviously, I do have the bull bar and the bash plate. There are a handful of companies out there that are doing that as well, like Subaru Extreme, which made both the bull bar and bash bar for my car. However, in a lot of cases, those parts have to be custom made specific for that vehicle and you can't really buy much off the shelf. Not to mention, how good would it be if an aftermarket company offered things like lockers and some proper low range gearing for these cars. That would just be unreal. So number 4, the lack of aftermarket support is a little bit disappointing. However, the off-road Subaru scene is still a very young and growing Subaru cult. So hopefully we'll see more of that in the future. Okay, number 5. Following on from what I said before with the lack of aftermarket gear, now when you are actually modifying these Subarus to the extreme, I'm talking big lift kits, custom bull bars, custom bar work, a lot of this, depending on where you live, for example, I live here in Australia and we have very strict laws. If I went to do a 4-inch lift kit and built a custom bull bar, those modifications would actually be illegal and they'd have to be engineered, which would cost me a hell of a lot of money. So my 5th point is that if you want to make your Subaru really capable, most likely you're actually going to illegally modify the Subaru just to make you keep up with the big boys. And saying that, the 2-inch lift and all-terrain tyres are still legal and they'll still vastly improve the off-road capability of your Subaru. Okay, so that's it for my 5 things that I dislike about my lifted Forester. I hope you guys really enjoyed it and let me know, what do you like and what do you dislike about your own vehicle? Leave a comment below. Alright, that's it guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.